Powered by Go-Goat Sports and in partnership with TSN, welcome to Season 3. This is Episode 3 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, and it is presented by our title sponsor, Infinity. Book your contactless test drive today at infinity.ca. All right, Ray, we've got Tom Fitzgerald, who's the Executive Vice President, General Manager of the New Jersey Devils, joining us here in Episode 3, and obviously we'll dive into all things New Jersey Devils. And there's a lot to talk about with the New Jersey Devils, you know, from the offseason and the prime signing of Dougie Hamilton to, you know, you watch a lot of the highlights, a lot of the games, even in the preseason, as a lot of us do. And Jack Hughes, as an example, we'll talk to Fitzy about him, but he looks like he's got that extra step, doesn't he? You know, now into third year of his NHL career.
Yeah. But I mean, that would be a prime example of when you're trying to build your team with really, really young players. There's no fast track for some of these guys. I mean, when Jack Hughes came into the NHL, he was built like a jockey, and it was going to take him some time to get a little strength, put a little muscle on, put a little power into his stride. And you're now, as you said, it's year 3 and you're starting to see the benefits of all that. He's a fabulous talent, and Jersey's got a lot of really good young players.
Looking at their roster, the number of young 20-somethings that they have developing, what a place to be for Tom Fitzgerald and the New Jersey Devils. And we'll get into all of that with Fitzy here in Episode 3. This is the fun part of training camp, though, now, isn't it? You know, you're into the final week. It's Sunday as we're recording Episode 3, and teams are streaming out all of their sendbacks. A lot of the guys who are in camp, who are junior eligible, are going back to their junior camps, and they're cutting down, and guys are being sent to the American League. So as a player, you know, going into this final week leading up to the regular season, you're starting to feel it, aren't you? You're starting to look at what appears to be your team, good, bad, or otherwise.
Well, I don't think anybody knows the date, but it is the Sunday like this as we tape. And it's the point in camp where the camps get pared down. And if you're a player that's established, you can't wait for this day. Because now you really start to lock in on what your team's going to look like and who you're going to play with. Now, if you're one of the guys on the bubble, you just don't want a phone call yesterday. You don't want a meeting this morning. Like it's, you know, I had that meeting my first year, and, you know, you come out after practice, and, you know, back then there was a list on the board with a bunch of times on it, and you did not want to be on that board.
No.
I mean, that board meant pack your stuff up. It's you know, tomorrow's a trip to the American League, but this is the most fun. I mean, like it's all this summer stuff you've done, all these workouts, all this,
right?
You know, behind the scenes work. It's now you're a week from the season. Like you just can't get there fast enough.
All right, we'll get to your questions, you being the listener, those who follow us on our YouTube channel as part of our Ask Ray and Dregs Anything segment a little bit later in the podcast. Tom Fitzgerald of the New Jersey Devils is our guest, and man, tons of news in our headlines segment. Of course, the latest signings in Vancouver with Pettersson and Hughes, what's going on with Brady Tkachuk in Ottawa, and Vegas Golden Knights goaltender Robin Leonard dropping bombs on social media on Saturday night. So a whole lot to respond to and opine on as part of our headlines, presented by our good friends at Boston Pizza. Well, so many places to go, Ray, in headlines this week, right? And we have to start with Robin Leonard, based on his social media posts on Twitter on Saturday night, which, man, just threw a ton of allegation at teams, plural, across the National Hockey League and how they dole out certain drugs. I'm going to read one of the tweets from Robin Leonard, and we can kind of bounce off that. Quote, is it common for workplaces to give out benzodiazepines to employees when they travel and Ambien? Should that not be done by doctors or psychiatrists? Asking for a friend. Then the googly eyes. This doesn't happen in Vegas, to be clear, but I know many other teams. I've also been on teams that do. So that's one of the tweets. He also came out somewhat damning against the Buffalo Sabres, the NHL, the Players Association for not doing more to help Jack Eichel out of his medical stalemate with the Buffalo Sabres, where they continue to be at odds, right? I mean, Jack and his representation, Pat Brisson and JP Barry, are doing their due diligence, finding the medical information, maybe support for the disc replacement. The Sabres, again, adamant that Jack has the fusion surgery. That's what their team of doctors want. So let's divide those two issues, even though Robin Lehner brought them both to the forefront. Well, first of all, thoughts on a star player, goaltender in the National Hockey League coming out swinging and throwing some pretty big allegations directly at NHL and National Hockey League teams. I mean, this doesn't happen very often, Ray.
No, it doesn't happen much. I mean, we can define it to hockey, but I mean, that would be pretty much the case for any professional sport. Now, I don't know what happens in a locker room now, and people can say, oh yeah, you do, you just don't want to say, but how the hell would I know? I'm not in it. You're not. And This is like, as much as people like to think we all know what's going on all the time, we don't. When you retire, I used to say, like, when you're in, and when you're out, you are out.
Right.
Nobody's telling you what's going on with how they decide on a surgery or how they decide on an Ambien. Now, I took Ambien infrequently. When the travel piled up, you'd be like, man, I got a game. And I didn't like it, for example, if I played back-to-back nights, because I would wake up and you're just really groggy. And while I needed the sleep, I was like, that's not good. But I could see where it would easily be abused. You didn't have to ask 10 times to get it. Like, look, I can't sleep. And you would end up with Ambien, if that was the choice at that time. If you needed anti-inflammatories for some injury you had going on, well, you got them. I mean, like, when I started, the process was not very organized. It's like, you got what you got. Then it became more, I'll say, regulated, or there was an oversight to it. But what Robin's alleging is that there's really not. And that's, that's pretty significant accusation. And again, I don't throw shade on it because I don't know.
Right.
It seems like it has to be addressed and investigated and understood. And that's what I take most out of what Robin has said here.
Well, and so that's where it gets curious for me. Reach out to the National Hockey League and the Players Association. I guess I just assumed that both parties would want to get involved, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a fourth line player, a fringe player, or in this case, you're the star goalie for the Vegas Golden Knights. When you get that sort of allegation thrown directly at clubs, by extension, the National Hockey League, be it the Players Association or the NHL, I would think that you'd want to investigate this, right? Or you'd at least want to have a pretty deep conversation with Robin Lehner to find out why he's throwing this out there. And furthermore says, I would be dropping more of this kind of stuff on a day-by-day basis. Right? So, honest dude, but the NHL basically says, look, we're here if Robin chooses to reach out and talk to us. And if he does, we'll follow up, and then we'll take the necessary steps to address when appropriate. I'm not surprised by that, right? It's almost like the NHL is going, okay, well, I mean, this is one player's take on it. Doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. Nothing to see here. Everybody move along. But it's pretty evident that Robin Lehner wants this information, his truths, out there, and it sounds like there's going to be more coming.
The conversation, to me, would be important. There are important allegations. I'd want to know. I'd want to know what he knows.
Yeah.
I think so. Why wouldn't you call up the Vegas Golden Knights if you're the National Hockey League and say, hey, look, you saw the stuff with Robin and we'd like to talk to him. Can we get him in here for a day? And whether you do it over Zoom or you meet and fly and connect somewhere, I don't know. But to me, it would seem to be something you'd want to explore from both sides, both the Players Association and the league. It's not just one nor the other to me. It's kind of both.
Now, his take on Eichel is a little bit off kilter. And what I mean by that is, and I don't have the copy in front of me, but he essentially said at some point, well, maybe Jack should just sign the waiver and get the surgery done that he wants. And, doesn't matter what Buffalo thinks. Well, I guess, but, how many dollars does Jack Eichel have remaining on his contract? $50 million? I mean, It's a guaranteed contract. He's not going to sign a waiver that puts that contract in jeopardy, right? If he goes and has a surgery that isn't endorsed by the Buffalo Sabres and, the league, the Players Association really haven't actively been involved, they're talking and then they're involved to a degree. But if he goes about it that way, I mean, Buffalo would probably just suspend him. So,
well, and I'll tell you why though, Dregs, is that this, on a totally unrelated matter, but guys have wanted second opinions on their knees, their shoulders, broken bones, whatever, not broken bones, like knee surgeries, shoulder repairs, wrist repairs. They've wanted second opinions forever. Yeah. You can go get one, but you have to understand from the team's perspective that if players are just going and getting surgeries all over the place from the doctor that they think they like the best or they do like the best without signing a waiver, then that leaves the Sabres on the liability hook.
Right.
And so, because that would mean they endorse it. So that would be the holdup in that regard. Secondarily is, the guys that are looking for these opinions, they're at wit's end. I mean, they want to be healthy. They want to feel better. They want to get back to play. The one thing I've just never understood about the Jack Eichel scenario, Dregs, is that why does it take so long? We're not talking about 11 different surgery types.
No,
we're talking about 2. We're talking about the fusion or the disc replacement. So why can't that process in itself, to whatever conclusion it's going to come to, but why hasn't that process been able to move along much, much, much quicker?
Well, and that truly is the concern, right? This season is quickly going to be a bust for Jack Eichel.
Right.
He's running out of time here. And for me, that's why I'm surprised, Ray, that the NHL hasn't been more actively involved. And again, the NHL, the PA are talking to all parties in this process. But Jack is a top 10 player in the league, isn't he? When healthy, he's a star player in the National Hockey League.
Put it this way. There's teams that we talk about. Who's the number one center? If Jack Eichel's on your team, you're not asking that question.
Right. He's a primary face of the sport. I would want this matter rectified. I would want a conclusion, whatever that conclusion is. And look, it will eventually. I think honestly, how it gets satisfied is Pat Brisson and CAA Hockey convince one of the teams with interest. And look, they're delivering that medical intelligence that they're getting day by day, week by week to those teams with interest. Maybe one of those teams finally steps up and says, you know what, we'll do it. We'll allow him to have whatever surgery he prefers. We like the player, so let's move along with this. I feel like that's probably the only way that this matter is going to get dealt with sooner rather than later. So
it's significant, and that all let's not lose the plot here. That all stemmed out, or the latest part of that stemmed out of Robin Lehner's comments yesterday, which I think we're both in agreement on should be taken seriously and should be investigated.
He took a pretty hard swipe at Alain Vigneault, too. Now the coach, of course, of the Philadelphia Flyers, which I was a bit confused by, to be fair, but I don't know. When you're naming names and you're throwing an allegation, whatever it was, at Alain Vigneault, I'd be a bit surprised if there isn't some pushback coming from AV or the Flyers. So, all right, big news in Vancouver, and we're awaiting the next step in a process of negotiation with Brady Tkachuk and the Ottawa Senators. But we know that Quinn Hughes gets done at 6 years, $7.85 million AAV. Elias Pettersson, 3 years at $7.35 million AAV. I tweeted out the structure of each contract if anybody wants to get a hold of that. You like the setup of these deals and the fact that they're staggered. You've got Quinn at 6 years, and you've got some breathing room with Pettersson, even though, those bridge deals can get a little wonky too when you're going into, the latter stages of the second year.
Yeah, I don't mind. It did seem like Quinn was going to have a more defined market, given some of the dollar figures that had popped this past couple of months for the defenseman. Interesting in Vancouver, though, is that so Pettersson's AAV is is significant, and he's their top forward. Well, next year they have a qualifying offer to deal with Brock Besser and Bo Horvat, and the year following is JT Miller. So a general manager has told me, you can plan and plot and do whatever you want with the cap. Eventually the cap wins.
Yeah.
And so you can criticize the structure if you want, but you got to get them signed. You got to get them into play. And maybe the view, if people are critical about the Canucks cap spot, would be that they took on 7 years of Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Right.
At 7 million, or 6 years at $6 million, $7 million.
Yeah.
They added $13 million in that trade. And that, you still have to surround these players, your best players, with other good players. Otherwise, they're just really great players that you can't win with. It's a sticky thing. It does add, to me, immediacy for the Canucks, because you're going to run into some dollar issues down the road, and it's inevitable. Hey, that's what happens when you have really good players. I look at that defense and I go, yay. Without Travis Hamonic, who doesn't appear to be, but with Hamonic not in the fold as well, you get to a pretty wonky defense in a hurry.
Pretty thin, yeah.
Now, Dregs, correct this for me. So if Pettersson's third year is $10.25 million, his qualifying offer is what?
I'm going to clarify that. Yeah.
Is it 80% of?
Yeah.
So it's about $9 million then.
Yeah. So JP Barry represents, CAA represents both. I looked at the qualifying offer and said beefy qualifying offer. And the response I got was yes, but under the new rules with this structure, it's actually $8.82 million. He would have ARB rights also at that time and could ARB higher potentially, right? Depending on his play. So new rules are a little bit different, which helps the club.
Helps the club for sure there. Yep, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's good for headlines today. There's a lot going on, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. So that leaves Tkachuk and Ottawa standing on the curb across the street from each other.
They continue to grind away at it, but if the conclusion isn't Brady, back in Ottawa and ready to go for the start of the regular season, the Senators have a problem. They're thin, man. They're thin up front. So he's going to need some time. All right. Our interview in this episode is with Tom Fitzgerald of the New Jersey Devils, and it's brought to you by our pals at Canadian Club Whiskey, who are asking, are you over beer? Why not try a refreshing CC ginger ale with lime next time you're having a drink or just watching the game?
Hey, Ray and Dregs listeners.
It's the Carson Price, BC's best sports podcast.
If you want to hear more hockey talk, particularly about the Pacific Division, the Canucks, and even the Kraken,
join us daily on your favorite podcast app. Hit follow and never miss a show.
All right, we're joined now by Tom Fitzgerald, the Vice President General Manager of the New Jersey Devils. And Fitzy, we're going to talk about the New Jersey Devils, how excited you are about the upcoming season. We'll get through some stuff around the Devils, and then we'll get to the better part of the interview, which is where you and Ray talk about your time on the island with the Isles way back in the day. So that's the juice of the podcast, right, Ray? That's where things start to happen.
Well, yeah, put it this way. We had Stumpy on and we've had heels on, and you know what they're like. There's how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm doing well. Excited to get the season started. Have some normalcy back in all our lives, and it's a really exciting time here in New Jersey during training camp, like it is through the other 31 teams, I'm sure. But the fan base is excited. Players are excited. Ray, when you see a team do things in the off season or even at the trade deadline, it gives you that extra, juice to knowing that management wants to help. So that's kind of where we felt this summer. So all good.
When you talk about the summer and the moves you make, of course, at the top of the list was Dougie Hamilton. When you're evaluating your team and you see what you want to add, how quickly do you zero in on a player and say, okay, let's start doing a little more research on how he plays and where his salary might come in and all those other parts that come into making a huge offer to Dougie Hamilton?
Well, I will say, here in New Jersey, we are very process driven with decision making, and we don't just dig. I would say a lot of teams say we don't dig just a couple layers down, but I can tell you here in New Jersey, we dig layers and layers and layers down. And the process starts early with information that goes to ownership and upper management. And I would say with our free agents or the potential free agents, all the behind the scenes work probably starts right after the deadline, to be quite honest, because you're always preparing for the next season and where are the holes. And then you finish out the year and then you talk to the coaches about the holes and how can we address those internally or externally. And upgrading the back end was a must for me. Size on the back end and mobility on the back end was a must for me. The teams that have the size and skating defensemen, they may not be hard. They're not Ken Danico type guys or Scott Stevens, but they're hard to play against because they're always in your way. That was our goal, checklist. Started with Ryan Graves, making that trade and adding that size and mobility. And somebody who's played in the top four with skilled defensemen partners. And then you have your list, your wish list, like every team does, and you start going through it, And the right shot was important because we really don't have any right. We have one right shot D in our system right now. Lots of lefts, but so we just figured somebody like that with the term, could really solidify the right side.
Was there a part of that day, Tom, and maybe it was the day before, I don't know, July 28th I'm talking about, right? Where you weren't so sure? Or was it more about, okay, we've got the parameters, the structure of an agreement here. Now it's going to be up to me, our group on the management side, and JP Barry to just kind of iron out some of the wrinkles before it's officially done. Or was there some nervous moments where you weren't so sure it was going to get done?
There was never any nervous moments because what do we have to lose? Like we're going after a free agent that is going to choose where he wants to go. And if he doesn't choose us, then we still got to go on that same path. Drafting and developing, and then find pieces to offset what we don't have, maybe smaller pieces. But I will say part of the process was my team here put together a hell of a recruiting video. What's New Jersey? And I sent it to every NHL agent and said, if you have a free agent, I want you to, I don't know who will be on our list, but send this to every free agent you have. Ray, I mean, like, you think of New Jersey and, I know when I came here, all I could think of was the Meadowlands or Secaucus, because that's all you saw. It's a hidden gem, gentlemen. It is a hidden gem. You want city living, you go down to Hoboken, Jersey City. Actually, they've had players who lived in New York City.
Beautiful.
Suburbs are awesome golf course with the beaches. It really is a hidden gem in the arena. And the other thing is where this, playing in the island versus playing in LA. Like the travel sucks out west, and here we're in our bed a lot of nights. There's only a couple teams that are in the same ballpark as us. And third, we're one-stop shopping here in New Jersey. We go to one place because we have our practice facility and our game rink all tied in together. So there's none of that double equipment, living here because it's close to the practice rink. So that's how it started. But with Dougie, I was never nervous. And I felt like around 3:00 that day, I think this is going to get done.
It's got to be a good feeling with all that work. And then you finally get that last phone call and say, yeah, we're in. It's got to make you guys jump forward a little bit, right?
Well, I think the biggest thing, Ray, is he chose us. Like the big fish chose us, and the work, like I said, with how my team put into it, recruiting, understanding where we're at, more importantly, where my team's at, and the growth and where we can get to with the talent that we have, and how well these kids are developing. And I'm talking the Jacks and the Nikos and the Brats and the Zackas, Ty Smith, Mackenzie Black. Like, there's a good core here that we can build with and continue to draft and develop well, because we got a couple young ones coming that are really good too. But finding that adult that can come in the locker room and help us. But he chose us. So yeah, hopefully this is the first domino for the future New Jersey Devils and being a destiny for free agents.
Fitzy, I'm looking at your roster. You got 3 guys that are 30 years old. I mean, that is an unbelievably young group of players. And a lot of them took a nice step last year. How do you guard against that, that little fade as you get into a longer season, and then a few more people around the league will know more about your players? Can you guard against that at all?
I think it's just the maturation of an individual and playing, that full schedule this year. I think it bodes well for a young team. Young, exciting, great legs. You may not get the blues of February because we're just halfway through. The one area that I think has been extremely helpful for that is Lindy Ruff and our coaching staff and the experience that we have behind the bench. And when I say open door policy, I mean, you guys know Lindy. I mean, his attitude it's just contagious. His personality, and he helps with all that. Time management on the ice is something that with the tracking and what you can do with players now, and maybe managing their practice time and in the weight room, that's real, to be honest.
You mentioned earlier on about Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. He didn't play much last year at all. And so, how does he look? And Dregs mentioned before you came on how different Jack looks in year 3 than year 1. Where are those 2 young centerpieces at for you?
Well, you're right. Nico had a tough go last year. When I got the news on December 1st that he had an high ankle sprain. And you know what, Ray, it actually reminded me of you because you had a broken leg, I remember. But it was down by the ankle. But I never thought but technically the leg. And so that's what he had. So we battled through that, got him back on. COVID hits. And then he takes a puck in the head, and then he's out. But you know what? He looked really good the other night against the Rangers. He needs some time. It was the World Championships were good for him to continue to play. So unbelievable young leader. Reason why we decided to give him the C last year was, as you know, Ray, being the captain, there's a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of things that are on your shoulders. And I want to take those things off early and let him experience in a very small window to get the rust out or understand what a captain does. And just more importantly, go be yourself. So fantastic young leader. Jack, he took a huge step last year. One in the weight room. The little boy started to become a young man. And that's where he's going. And you just watch him, the edge work, he takes me out of my seat. I know that when I watch him play, but he worked like a shot. There's more zip on his shot this year. Face-offs have been a lot better. So we expect him to take another jump.
Yeah, no, Fitzy, I was just going to say, you mentioned Mackenzie Blackwood as being a big part of the core moving forward. And I don't think that should be disputed in any fashion. But, it's been made very public that Mackenzie, for his own reasons, decided not to get vaccinated. Has there been a change in his position, or is this just something like other players around the National Hockey League that the New Jersey Devils and teams are just going to have to find a way to work around?
Well, for the record, he never said he was not going to get it. He just hasn't found it in him to get it yet. There's a time that he's telling us. He looks at the schedule probably and sees a runway of X amount of time. We've made him fully aware, and he knows what the consequences are if he's missing games.
Right.
So, to be honest, he was actually in the seat at one point to get it and just got up and left. So he's not saying I'm not doing it. He's just saying I'm not doing it today. I'll figure it out. I'm not sure when. Like, there's never a no. But it's tough. I wish all my players were vaccinated. Our company wishes, well, our company actually mandates everybody who works for HPSC needs to be mandated by November 1st, or else. We can't do that in the National Hockey League. But you know what? The biggest thing, and Mackenzie knows, I'm going to hold his feet to the fire with the protocols and the rules. Rules aren't meant to be broken. They're broken, there's consequences. So, and if you keep breaking rules because you're protected by a certain union, the people who are surround you, the equipment guys, and they're allowing you in their room, and they're not, said, I'll send them home and I'll suspend them. So there's consequences to action. So with that being said, this has nothing to do with him getting a shot. It has everything to do with the protocols that he has to adhere to, or else. So, but he technically he's never said no.
Right.
It's it's such a, I'll say divisive because I can't think of a better word, topic. But when it becomes one of your players, does that have to be addressed by you as the group, or does the word just kind of filter around? I mean, obviously everybody knows, but is that something you have or Lindy has to address with the team?
No, individuals, we've talked to our leadership group on it and just get there. And listen, I have players, and we've read lately, there are players out there that did not want to do this, but did it. And my message to that message from players is, I have a couple. I said, but you did get it. You got it. So, we talked about the protocols and the rules. I put it on the players too. I said, guys, you don't understand. He's back in the 2020-21 bubble, even in Jersey City where he lives. Yeah. So if you want to, you're not supposed to go to dinner with him. You're not supposed to go. You guys can do it. He's not supposed to. But if you allow him to do this, you're breaking protocols too. So you guys have to police this. I can't. And then everybody tells me I had a really good talk with him, and he's really, the planks, he's going to do it. And I said, I don't want to hear it. Just tell me when he gets it. That's it. Because he's going to sit in a separate locker room. He's going to sit by himself in the bus. And when we start making long trips, people around him are going to have to wear masks. And you got a shot not to wear a mask. So, this is coming down the road, guys. So to your question, Ray, I've made my players aware of it. And let them hear, because it's going to affect them.
It's when so now you're steamrolling to the season. What does the start of the season look like in your head with your schedule, with your young team? You've got a new goaltender as well in Jonathan Bernier. You got Dougie Hamilton. You brought in Thomas Tatar. What does the start of this all look like for the?
Well, right now we're trying to find chemistry. What kind of steps can guys make? Who are this year's Sharon Govich and Kukkonen, guys who just went popped last year and a lot of good players. Who are those guys? But finding chemistry. We have 3 more exhibition games. Does Pavel Zacha go back to the middle because he's center by nature, or keep that line together with Hischier and Brad, or can we spread the wealth a little bit and continue to add depth? I think we've added depth. We've got some PTOs in here really fighting for time and a contract. Young kids look good. Mercer, Holtz, Tice Thompson, Nolan Foote. These guys all look good right now. So it makes you feel good. But I think more importantly, it's, solidifying the goaltending. Obviously, partners on the back end. Special teams has really been a focus for us this camp. In line combination. So no different than any year, but just a lot of excitement. Again, I think just with more depth comes competition. And with competition, as you know, Ray, you drag the best out of athletes.
Well, it's funny, like we were talking just prior you come on. So Sunday, usually this Sunday of camp is whatever the date is. That's the big cut down day when a lot of players get released, sent back to juniors, sent to the American League. I always looked at this day almost like the start of the season. Like it was the day things kicked forward. You probably had a day off in most cases. Does it feel like now you're on that
not
final
yet.
Runway?
Yeah. Because that's not yet, because we still have just under 2 weeks. We don't open up until the 15th on a Friday night, not the 12th, right, like every team. But we know the schedules has to be in, or the rosters have to be in by the 11th. No, we still have 2 teams. Now we've cut some guys today, enough for 2 solid groups of practices and managing managing everybody's time and how we can condition them and things like that. We play 3 and 4 coming up again. Then we'll make the big cuts after Friday. So we'll still have a good solid week with our group from Saturday to our opener on the 15th on the Friday.
So if I look way back 25 years or whatever, who's the Tom Fitzgerald on this team? Who's the guy for energy, for toughness, for penalty killing, for all that stuff you used to do with your Boston edge? Like who is that guy?
On my team, I would say right off the top of my head, Tice Thompson comes to mind because of just the work ethic and just the motor just never stops. And he's got some skill, and that wasn't a first round flop like me, but he's a smart, and he's very versatile. So right off the bat, I would say as a prospect, you kind of gravitate towards those guys. You root for them a little harder. You know what, Ray? To be honest with you, what I loved about development when I started in the business on this side of it was I could relate to the norm of the league, not the exception. Jack and Nico, they're the exception. I don't understand them. But like somebody like Mike McLeod, I would say Mike McLeod is like me. He skated better than me, but helping him understand the role he was what he will play in the NHL versus the role he was drafted to play in the NHL, completely different. And the best part is when he accepts it and you see him take off because he does have skill. And Al Arbor is the one who gave me that advice. And he just said, you're not, before you got to the Long Island Raid, just said, you're not going to play in any of my top 3 lines. You got Trotch, Sutter, and LaFontaine. He said, but if you can do this, and this, physicality, versatility, penalty kill, he said, Christ, if you got 10 goals in this league, that's the bonus. But if you do all those other things, you can play a long time. And I left the office, took the heart and said, I could care less if I score a goal anymore. And I was a 30 goal scorer in the American League. It's not Ray Ferraro type goals, but it's I was drafted because of offense, but I could help players transition into how to stay in the league, how to stay relevant. But they got to make that choice to accept it. And Mike McLeod has.
You know what's pretty cool about that story, Fitz? I think all of us have an Al story like that, where he called you in at whatever various points of your career and just gave you the goods. And then you stood there because the meeting was over and he said, well, that's it. And then you go. Like, is that something learned from Al? Like, can you, in your role, which is more, right, management's different than coaching. Like, can you be a little bit like that? Or do you look at something like that Bill Torrey used to do when he was around our group as well?
Great question. And I do take a bit of both guys. Al was very, strong and matter of fact. And when honestly, the one thing I learned from being an Islander was if you weren't mentally strong and you didn't have thick skin, you weren't going to make it in that organization, because there were days where Al Arbor would walk right by me and he and I are the only ones in the hallway. Guess I'm not playing tonight. I'm out. and then there were days he walked by, Fitzy boy. Oh yeah, you must be in tonight. And it was just, the roller coaster that you were riding. It was like, so the story was he just wanted you to be even keel and don't let anything bother you. I would say I'm more like Bill, because I remember those days of a player, like they're walking eggshells, like this GM, is he going to say, hey buddy, how you doing? I might cut him that day, but I just treat everybody the same way. And you know what, let them feel good about themselves, because Ray, the more you feel good about yourself, the faster you feel, lighter on your skates, the stick puck is not. It's a different feeling. It's tough to explain to people, but I try to put players into that good place.
Now, hold on, Ray. You asked Fitzy who on the current New Jersey Devils roster is the closest to Tom Fitzgerald. So I'm going to
be a terrible question.
Who's the Devils Ray Ferraro?
God, I hope there isn't one.
And aside from the goals, Fitzy, the goals are a big part of it. Ray was a real solid offensive player, but I'm talking about the whole Ray, the package of Ray. Yeah.
Well, no one has a live 4 stick, so no one has that low live.
That thing was the worst. I look at it now and I'm like, no wonder nobody ever took my sticks out of the, someone would get, hey, Fitzy, can I use one of your sticks? Because they were not, no one was using mine.
You did it. I think you did that on purpose. So no one would.
My dad told me as a kid, no one will break your sticks this way. Use this little crappy one.
You know what? It's a tough question because the modern kid aren't grumpy. Everybody's happy to go lucky. You didn't know what you're going to get with Ray. Hey, Ray. Oh, sorry. Can I? Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. And then he'd smile and his cheeks would crack a little bit. He need some Vaseline. But who on my? I don't have any. I wish I did. I wish I had somebody who just type A and go in and go tell you right to your face. I promote it. I don't have anybody, to be honest, like that. I got,
Fitzy, I got to be honest. When I hear this, from guys, I'm like, damn, what? You know how you have a picture of yourself?
Yeah.
This picture's crystallized over the years, and I'm not so sure I like the picture. It's like, what an asshole. I was like, geez, man.
Completely complimentary.
He took a lot of pride in his own game. And completely in a way that if it wasn't up to the standard, he felt he was letting the team down. Even if we won, he just would because I played with him one night in Quebec, and we had a great night. Great night.
Do you remember who our other winger was?
It had to be Claude Loisel or Dave McElwain or somebody else on the fourth line with me, and you were with me.
Yeah, Jan Kaminski.
Oh yeah.
This was a big win for us too in Quebec. I remember this game
in
7-2,
and we weren't.
Oh, point night.
No, there was no points for us. There was no points for us.
-2.
We were -2, but we won. It was like Quebec City. We're going out. I remember out in Quebec City. You were like, we got to be better. I'm like, okay.
Just think of that bloody night. 7-2, and us dummies are -2. Like, how does that even happen?
But no, it was great. Ray, I didn't realize how long you played on the island, to be quite honest, after I left. I didn't realize how long. We had a good group.
That became that was for the first time being traded, like you never know how it's going to go. It ended up being just perfect. Yeah. It was my favorite team to play on because we were kind of all like at this point where we'd been looked past a little bit by some other people, and then it all kind of came together. Like it came like when we got into that playoff series, Fitz. I mean, nobody was going to think we had a chance again. Like we didn't think we had a chance, really. No. How the hell are we going to beat those guys?
That was the first time. I'm sure you remember the meeting. Donnie Maloney, who was the GM. That was weird. Donnie Maloney became our GM. It was like, where's Bill? See Bill around? Like, where'd he go? But he came. I don't know. 30 games left or whatever, and he came in with that segment bonus. First time we ever saw that. Like, oh, there's actually real cash tied to points. But what it did is it compartmentalized segment, just like 5 games, and don't look beyond it. And man, we just got on a roll, and it continued into the playoffs. It reminded me of, quite honest, my 2009 Penguins team when I stepped behind the bench with Dan, and we were about 10 points out of the playoffs when the coaches were let go, and we came in, and we just started getting on this roll. We didn't have segment bonuses, but we just got on a roll, and we were playing playoff hockey before the playoffs, and it just snowballed right into the playoffs.
Drakes, do you know who holds the league record for 2 shorthanded goals and on the same penalty?
Tom Fitzgerald.
Good guess. Unbelievable. How the hell did you get 2 on 1 penalty?
How the hell did I get those 2 goals when I should have been sitting in the box? Because it was my penalty that they. No! It was me who high stuck Mike Ramsey in Pittsburgh, and they put Claude Loisel in the box, and it was, I don't know, we had 30 seconds left in the period. Knocked the puck down, shot it in the net, and then Hoagie and I started the second or third period and scored right away. So kind of looked like it was in the same time frame, but 2 different periods. But yeah, I should have been sitting in the box.
Well, the best part about that, wow. Clody would have been really relaxed when he went in there too.
Oh,
Claude Loisel may have been. Could he have been grumpier than me?
I think
so.
Grumpiest. and he's a wonderful person. And he didn't smile much, was Adam Creighton.
Oh, yes.
He didn't smile much. But he was a funny guy.
We had a lot of fun guys, eh?
Yeah, no, good guys. Played with a lot of teams, a lot of guys. That was a fun team.
Tell me one quick one before we let you go. You mentioned Bill Torrey. He took you down to Florida or selected you in the expansion draft. You guys hit it right out of the box. Here's Seattle this year. They're going to try and replicate somehow what Vegas did. But how were you so effective in Florida that first year? I mean, aside from the fact you strangled the life out of the rest of the game, like what worked so well?
Yeah, you said it earlier about our Islander team. You got traded to us, and us homegrown guys didn't look at it that way, but that's how we looked at it in Florida. We were on an island of misfit toys, and just prove it to everybody else that we're better than where we were and slotted. And when you can all be on the same page and understand how to win, or at least be in a game to win it. We had 22 good listeners. Whatever the coach asked us to do, we did it. And it was a lot of fun. It really was. And I really never thought that expansion record of, I think our winning percentage, we were one game under 500, like 495, 496, would ever be broken again. And boy, was I wrong. When Vegas came in, the rules are a little different. What you get for 500 million, what kind of players you can get in 650. So,
yeah. But, all right, Fitzy. Well, we'll let you go, man. You've come through a real incredibly busy time of the off season now into training camp, and big decisions coming for the New Jersey Devils with some of your young developing players. But I think a lot of us are excited to see what's next for you and the Devils, because it looks like a team that's most definitely on the rise. So good luck, and
this is
thanks
awesome.
for joining us here.
My pleasure. What a privilege.
And we'd like to raise a glass to our guest today, Tom Fitzgerald of the New Jersey Devils, brought to you by our friends at Canadian Club Whiskey. And man, so many good things out of that interview. Good, funny good, talking about your days with the Islanders and all of that.
I got to get to these guys before they start talking about me. I don't know. Jeez,
well, there is a common theme. It's always the grumpy Ray stories always seem to find a way to the forefront.
I didn't like the morning Ray. F off. Yeah, really? I was like that?
It was true. Mm-hmm. And then you definitely saw Fitzy bubbling a little bit, right? Enthusiastically talking about the excitement of this season. Nico Hischier hoping that he's going to remain healthy after a tough year last year. Obviously, the strides that Jack Hughes is making, how young this team is, strong developmentally and all that. And then you get him talking about Mackenzie Blackwood, who he's got all the time in the world for, as a top goaltender in the organization. But the vaccine scenario, I'm not calling it an issue yet, because he corrected when we said, look, he hasn't been vaccinated. Doesn't mean he's not going to be vaccinated. But he told the story of Mackenzie being in the chair, getting out of the chair, and then everything that the general manager, Tom Fitzgerald, is going to have to do if Mackenzie Blackwood doesn't get vaccinated. I mean, he gets fired up. You get a little bit of that Boston Fitzy coming up talking about.
Well, what I realized as he was talking was the layers to the whole thing if you're not vaccinated. So he's dressing in a different locker room. On the bus, he's got to sit by himself. You travel on the road. If you're in the protocols, you can't eat with him. And so it's a pretty stringent set of rules that are supposed to be followed here. And how they all make sure that's the case, I don't know, because they're not going to call a penalty on themselves. They're not, I wouldn't think that's going to happen, but there will be growing pressure, I would say, because I think New Jersey has 9 games in Canada. I think I read that, Dregs, given their division. So that's 9 games. I mean, how many times if you're a team that you think is going to be in the playoffs or be close to it, how many times does it come down to 1, 2, or 3 points? It's a lot of points. And so right now, Jonathan Bernier is your goaltender for those 9 games because Blackwood can't cross the border. And then there's a cap penalty to it, or a cap implication to it. you got to call up another goalie to be your backup. So you're chewing up cap space, although the Devils have a lot of cap space still. It's, I don't want to take the focus away. I mean, that's a major issue, but man, he was fired up about Dougie Hamilton. Last year, New Jersey's defenseman, Drake, scored 15 goals.
Wow.
15. Dougie Hamilton outscored them.
Yeah.
So can he do the same thing? Are there, I don't quite get this thing with Hamilton where people say, yeah, but there's warts on his game. Yeah. Guess what? There's warts on everybody's game.
Yeah.
They're like, whoever you think is in the Norris Trophy conversation, they don't play a perfect game. Nobody does.
Well, as happy as Fitzy is, and he mentioned Lindy Ruff as part of the interview, I bet you it's tough to smack the smile off Lindy's face, right? And there are growing pains here. It's still a very young team, as you identified. But you bring in Dougie Hamilton, you look around, if they can get the Blackwood scenario figured out, I mean, they've got Jonathan Bernier, they've got other options that maybe can close some of the gaps. But I think we need to start looking at the New Jersey Devils as a team that is legitimately turning the corner. Fair?
For sure. Tom went quickly by Dawson Mercer, mentioned he's having a really good camp. There's another young guy. Look at their roster. If you really want to amaze yourself, just pull up the Devils roster and look at the ages. Thomas Tatar's 30. PK Subban, I think, is 32 now, which is hard to believe. And Jonathan Bernier is 33. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're all like, it's so young and they're talented and they've got good size to go with the talent, which I think is really, really pretty critical. So I'm looking at the Devils as a team that people will look past for the first half of the year, and maybe they shouldn't.
And time for a weekly stop with Chris Abbott from coolbet.co, who's living the dream, just enjoying life in Vegas and all the shenanigans, Ray's favorite word, that goes on when you're traveling in
I didn't
Vegas.
know Chris was going to be here this week. I thought we might be MIA for this hit.
He looks good. You look crisp.
It's early. I think last time we spoke, I was telling you guys, you got to pace yourself when you're here. Yeah, well, not much. And I had been, been traveling and I had seen Ray in Vancouver and stuff, but now I just feel like a resident. I have the disdain for the Strip. I have, all these tourists. Yeah, no, it's brutal. But we got out to a couple of Golden Knights exhibition games, actually, Colorado and LA. And nice. I know you guys already know this, but the atmosphere in that building, like for a preseason game, better than any regular season game I've ever experienced in Canada. And that's, we like to think we own hockey up north, but I don't know. I don't think we do.
Did you figure out the shot clock?
Oh my God. So that was so funny. I was looking at it and we are accustomed to just, the shots listed on your team's side, but they had a saves counter as well. And it was really confusing for a little bit, but then I realized like maybe they do that just because, people bet the number of saves or bet the number of shots for a team and whatnot. So yeah, it was funny when that happened, but I figured it out. I'm a smart guy, right?
Yeah. What I liked about it is Chris sent us a picture and said, "Hey, what the hell's going on with his shot clock?" And then about 20 minutes later, he's like, "Never mind, I got it." You ground away at it. I like it.
Yeah, but no, what a great building. The atmosphere aside, just the building itself it was beautiful. Yeah. And I got to see it from a couple of different vantage points. So for anyone out there who hasn't been to a game at T-Mobile, and I'm sure a lot of you have already heard about it.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
Put it on your list. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got, we can't talk a lot about baseball because we're recording this on Sunday. So, but
craziness today,
soul crushing. You're pretty much a card carrying Jays fan, are you not, Chris?
I am. No. Well, yeah. I mean, officially, right? Like I've got season tickets, so I have the card. I have the receipt to produce it.
Has it been soul crushing this whole experience over the? I'm a fringe Jays fan. I was talking to Ray about this earlier, and I've actually enjoyed it. Not that I like seeing guys like you twist. It's just been it's been entertaining. The ebbs, the flows, all of it. But for you, not so entertaining.
Working in sports, and I know you guys say this too. Like I don't cheer for or against your your team or anything like that. And when it comes to the NFL, the NHL, I was raised a Maple Leafs fan, and I probably followed them a little more closely, obviously living in Toronto, but I do get sucked in by the Blue Jays, and I do wear that on my sleeve. And it's just such a long season, and it's so easy to get emotional game by game. And now where we're at the end of it, I don't know. I'm preparing myself for the worst, but I'll be happy if the best happens. But it's just a crazy situation, no matter what team is involved. I mean, come down to the last day where you could have a 4-way tie for a playoff position. It's great. It's great for the game. Yeah.
Did you watch Seattle last night? Were you in the sports book somewhere?
I actually was. I had just gotten back, so all the Cool Bet brass is here, and all the guys from Europe, they had to quarantine in the Bahamas before coming to the U.S. Oh. Tough life, I know.
You got to quarantine somewhere.
Yeah, right. So they all got in, and we went out and had a nice dinner. I just got back to the hotel, and I went to the sports book to put my NFL bets in. And I'm like, I'm looking at the sheet, and I'm writing it down, and I hear this big cheer. And I'm like, what's going on? And of course, the Mariners down in the 8th, and they come back and score 3. And I was like, oh, come on. We just needed a little break here. And it went the other way. But actually, David Amber posted this morning the call of the TV guy from Seattle. If you haven't
Rick
seen
it, he's been there forever.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah.
What's the football? Busy? Sorry, what's the football got today for you? Pretty busy, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. So we're in the Circa Million contest. So Circa Sports, again, any sports fan has already seen this place, which is unbelievable. So we've got that going on, which is 5 picks against the spread every week. And I think for bets, I've got I was convinced to take the Jets because Tennessee's got a couple of receivers out. Dregs, I know we talked about Tennessee.
Oh, buddy, I took the Titans. So
did you? Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. In your survivor pool. Okay. So let's see what happens there. I like the Bucks, although even though the number's a little bit fishy, it's been hanging around 7 points, even though everybody's betting on them. I got the Chargers tomorrow night on Monday night. Get the Browns to win. That's all I can think of off the top. Oh, and the over in the Minnesota and Minnesota Cleveland. I've got the over in that game as well. So we'll see what happens.
Good deal. Well, that'll keep you busy. Anything else cooking this week for coolbet.co?
Well, we're getting right up into the hockey season, so the props are getting a lot of attention now. And we hate to make it a Leaf-centric conversation, but their point total is at 106.5. Tampa Bay's is 105.5, and I think the only team with a higher point total on the book is Colorado. So, listen, guys, I don't know about you, but I don't know that the Maple Leafs are going to have the second best record in the league this year. So I think I'll be taking the under on that. And they've got Matthews' goal total set at like 56.5, whereas Pasternak is like 36.5. So, I mean, come on, right? Like these guys are both obviously amazing goal scorers, but I'll be taking David Pasternak's total for sure.
Excellent. All right, Chris. Well, thanks for doing this. Enjoy the rest of your time in Vegas. And perhaps when we do episode 4 next week, you'll be fresh again, well rested, and back in Eastern Canada by that point.
Next week? No, I'm still here. I'm still here for one more NFL Sunday, and I may or may not take in the Seattle Kraken Vegas Golden Knights opener if I'm lucky.
Nice. Just think you're going to walk by the desk and somebody from behind the desk is going to yell, "Go home, man. Go home."
I don't know. They probably want me to stay based on the way things are going this week.
All right, thanks, buddy. Guys. Have a good one. Thanks for doing this.
Cheers.
All right. Ask Ray and Driggs anything. Each week, Ray, we ask our fans to fire off questions via Twitter, Instagram, Ray and Driggs, or on the website, rayandriggs.com. And no shortage of questions coming our way on all of those socials, including Instagram. We'll get to some of those. First, Coast to Coast Hockey on Twitter, Ray, wants to know who takes home the Calder this year. And he says, I think Caulfield is a litlittle bit overrated. So is it Zegras? Too soon to say? What do you think?
Well, Caulfield would be the front runner for me because he's played some games, right? Because we've seen him and shown an ability to score. Like Trevor Zegras hasn't really shown anything yet. like, so you can say, yeah, sure, of course he's in the conversation of it. Like, could Moritz Seider be a guy that can impress enough to be in that mix? What if Sergei Bobrovsky gets out of the gate slow and Spencer Knight takes over in Florida? Could Spencer Knight?
It's possible.
Right. Yeah. Like, could he be a player? It doesn't seem like there's a standout guy like that you can look at and go, oh yeah, this is the guy. Right. Like it doesn't seem like that to me. I have Caulfield as my favorite or what have you, front runner at this point.
Ask Ray and Driggs Anything is presented by our friends at Endy.ca. Endy, the 2021 winner of the best mattress in Canada. All right, now let's go to Instagram. Ooh, revisiting some of our headlines. All right.
Okay.
AJ Tronut. Does Vegas regret trading the reigning Vezina winner with what Robin Lehner is doing on Twitter right now? I would say no. But I would think that organizationally there'll be some discussions with Robin, not muting him. You're not going to do that to Robin Lehner. He's a grown-ass man. He can say whatever he wants. But I think that there would want to be some form of understanding with what Robin Lehner is doing.
I think it's completely naive in 2021 to think that every player is going to walk in a straight line and toe the line and say, oh, gee, golly, this is great. And we're the league's great and the game's great and the team's great. And that's just not the way it is anymore. So you have to accept that everybody is going to be themselves. As far as the Fleury deal, no, if Lehner stops the puck, you can have, let's just stop the puck. He's allowed just to have his puck. Yeah, and I would say the same thing if he was a winger. I'd say just score.
Yeah,
like just do what you're supposed to do. And as far as the opinion and his comments, they'll have to deal with that, and the league will have to deal with it, and there'll be a larger discussion around it all. However, I'll say Fleury had to go. They're stuck. They had to clear cap space. You can't have $13 million in goalies. So each night you have $5 million minimum sitting in a ball hat. You can't do that. And so they had to make a choice.
No. All right. Back to Instagram. Xavier.Halterman is asking, Ray, are the Edmonton Oilers deep enough to keep up with some of the top teams in the West? We just talked about Vegas. Are the Oilers there yet?
I think they're close. Of course, lots of it's going to do with what happens in the crease. Can those guys... can Mike Smith replicate last year? Can Mikko Koskinen be a little bit better than he was in the past? And if it's good enough, can they get to the deadline when maybe somebody else springs loose? Is Duncan Keith got game left? Does he have game left at a number 3 defenseman level? Can Cody Ceci play as he did in Pittsburgh? Not the Cody Ceci that got run out of Toronto, but the Cody Ceci that went to Pittsburgh and played really well. Like, those are significant questions. Can Evan Bouchard take a top 6 role and run their power play? There's lots of questions, but lots of questions mean there can be some answers too.
All right. One more for you, Ray, on Twitter from D_Stewart. If you are Kyle Dubas in Toronto, what do you do with Morgan Rielly? Do you let him walk into free agency? Do you trade him before that point? Or do you just find a way to sign him to the extension?
I'm doing nothing right now. I'm having conversations with Morgan and his representatives. I'm telling them how much he means to us. I'm saying, hey, look, we got to see exactly where we are come March. And if we think this is a legit contender with the guys that you guys have all taken a step and we all think this is a legit contender, we'll get you signed. And if we can't, they might have to make a decision in March. But that's not a decision for now.
All right, that's Ask Ray and Driggs Anything. Again, submit your questions to us on Twitter and Instagram at Ray and Driggs or on our website, rayandriggs.com. Man, you're getting busy, aren't you, Ray? I'm just coming out of a busy week. Got another busy week. But
here goes the week. I got Monday, fly to Toronto, game Tuesday.
Yes.
In
Toronto, Montreal. Is that
Toronto, Montreal?
Tuesday?
Yep, Tuesday.
Yeah, okay.
Next morning, tape top 50 players in studio.
I got out of that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
and
I'm not doing it.
Okay. Anyway, to you. Then I got a press conference thing with NBC for the start of the season. That's nice. While I'm in studio. Then I get in the car and we got a production meeting on the way to the airport. Fly home. I'm home Thursday, Friday. COVID test Friday for my flight Sunday to Tampa for game Tuesday. Monday, by the way, I got to get the COVID test to come back.
Oh, and what if it doesn't? Then you're not going to wherever.
Then I'm not going to Ottawa, and I'm just going to stay in Tampa for 2 weeks. Yeah, so that's the next 10 days. We're off and running, Dregs. I'm excited. You know what? I'm excited for lots of reasons.
Yeah,
I'm excited to go back to work. I'm excited to step into a little bit of normalcy. I'm excited to see the fans at the rink again. I want to see the life again. It's really cool to see.
Well, you know what I'm excited about? I owe you, by the way. I owe you for several things.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like, was it season 1 where we made that ridiculous bet?
Oh, you still have
we were supposed to be overseas, and, I was going to buy dinner because your pool was better than my pool.
By a significant margin.
Yeah, and then you and Cammie have me over for dinner, which was wonderful. So I definitely owe you. But you were such a good guest on the Sekeres and Price show when we were there that I've actually got a weekly installment on the show.
I'm glad. I'm glad you're. And I'm glad. Just collect those invoices, Drake.
So I'm benefiting from your expertise and cutting analysis. So I think.
Well, good. I'm happy for you, and I know you're looking at some stuff for the cabbage, and maybe it all helps.
It does. Every little bit helps. All right, man. Well, we've got to get out of here. Looking forward to episode 4. We've had some good guests. It's always fun when you can, bring out the humor, and some of the guys that we have on board, and Tom Fitzgerald certainly did that. So
thank you,
we'll come up with another A-grade guest for episode 4. So you have a good week, my friend.
Yeah, you too, Dregs. Be well. And last week before the season, I hope everybody's excited about their teams and excited about the season, and I hope everybody's well. Thanks for listening.
You bet. Yeah, huge shout out to our partners who make the podcast possible. Our title sponsor, Infinity. Visit infinity.ca and you can book your contactless test drive. Coolbet.co, the free-to-play sports and casino games website. By our good friends at Canadian Club, who ask, are you over beer? By Andy.ca, remember, use code RD75 to save $75 on a mattress. And a special welcome back to our friends from Boston Pizza. BP Kids Cards are back, so you want to check that out and support. And a special thank you to you for listening, for rating, for sharing, for following the podcast wherever you do on your podcast platforms, and most importantly, for following us on our YouTube channel as well. That's episode 3. Episode 4 is setting up to be a beauty as well. In the meantime, everybody, stay well.